Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Soul Speak with Jenny Israel. I am very excited to launch the first of a new series that I'm going to be offering on my podcast as well as on my YouTube channel called Soul Tribe Saturdays. And the goal of the Soul Tribe Saturdays was to introduce other experts in the field of expansion and healing and transformation to give you all an opportunity to hear some new perspectives and to offer you some other healing resources inside of your journey. So the first person that we're going to be talking to today is Kelly Lynn Adams. And Kelly Lynn Adams is an executive level transformational mindset and embodiment coach who is local to our area. She's just outside of Manhattan in New Jersey. And Kelly Lynn and I have known each other for a decade, and I cannot even believe that. We are totally aging ourselves inside of that. But we met in IPEC, in life coaching school, and we were guided together through a common love for women's empowerment is what brought us together. And Kelly Lynn was a student of the Gabrielle Bernstein School before Gabby Bernstein was even really Gabby Bernstein. I mean, like, as everybody knows her now, she really wasn't that yet. She was just kind of breaking the surface. And I think her first book was just being published at that point. The Ing, right? Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Kelly Lynn was the first one to even tell me about Gabby Bernstein. I didn't even know who it was when we met. So she's been in the women's empowerment and the spiritual circles for a very long time. And we actually broke out of our, I would say in the more traditional workplace right around the same time, about going on 2 or 3 years ago. And so I wanted to bring Kelly Lynn on because of the fact that one of her new coaching strategies and the things that she's talking with her mastermind groups about is the power of play. And for those of you who've been listening to my IGTV and my podcast as of late, I've been talking a lot about sacral chakra healing and sacral clearing, which is the same as shadow work and inner child work. And so the sacral chakra is the area where we engage in pleasure and we engage in our desires. And at a very young age, and this is where the inner child work comes in, usually around the age of 8 is when the sacral chakra begins to open and become really active. And at that time, what if we lived in a perfect world where we had parents that understood this and could teach us how to use our emotions as a navigational compass, we would be fully engaged in this clairsentience that opens at that age. And we would be able to navigate the entire range of emotions, negative and positive, as we label them, to be able to access our full power, to be able to co-create our reality, because we know what feels good and what doesn't feel good. And we would also have been given permission from a very early age to fulfill our desires and to be okay with what we want and be okay with feeling good. And so a lot of what ends up happening is that these emotions become disenfranchised and we lose our connection with our ability to feel pleasure and feel okay about that, to connect with our creativity, to connect with our sensuality, and to connect with that source of power that really is where manifestation begins. And Kelly Lynn has made some really important connections between the ability to manifest abundance and tapping into this ability to play. And so we're going to let her tell her story and talk a little bit about what she's discovered inside of this new strategy. And especially, she does work with men and women as an executive level coach, but we're going to talk about it too, especially from the path of a woman and her working with women, because she's launching a mastermind class actually on Monday of this coming week that's going to deal directly with this. And you still have spots left in that class, Kelly?
Yes, I do.
You do. Okay. So
Okay.
there's going to be some more information we'll give you at the end of the podcast about that mastermind class and how to reach out to Kelly Lynn if you're interested. But I'm going to hand the mic over to Kelly and let her tell her story.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much, Jenny. It's such an honor to be on this. I am so happy for you. And it's like been such a journey, like to see each other grow. And we've always stayed connected. Like I feel when we were talking like last week, we are like, oh, we've always thought about each other. I
Mm-hmm.
do. I feel like I've never lost connection with you. So thank you so much for having me on
That's my
podcasts and
pleasure.
YouTube. Yeah. And I love the work that you're doing. Yeah. So my story, I mean, in a nutshell, uh, I was the good girl. I was following all the rules. Went to school and got on Wall Street. My dream was to like work in New York City and have this big career and be really successful. And from an ego point of view, I checked all the boxes. I dated all the hottest guys. I drove, the amazing luxury cars. I had the handbags and I worked really hard for it. I was hustling so much to the point of, exhaustion and burnout and landing in the hospital. And I say that I was like, for years, I was wearing all these different types of quote unquote masks, even though, born and raised Jersey girl, like I'm as real as they get. And still I was hiding, and still even now I'm still doing the work, the trauma healing, the shadow work. I mean, it's like an onion, right? We peel back the
Mm-hmm.
layers of the onion.
I say that all the
And
time.
yeah, and it's like it's never ending. And it's such a blessing because we get to learn more and more about ourselves and the unlearning actually that has to occur, like you said, in childhood, where this miracle, I have another program that I am facilitating called Women Work and Worth, and my tagline for that is born a miracle, taught and told you weren't. So innately, right, we are miracles, we are divine beings, and no fault of anyone's. I mean, it's society, it's our teachers, it's the people that are surrounded, that we surround ourselves with as we grow up. And so I was wearing all these masks. I had the dream jobs in fashion. I reported, to amazing mentors, still to this day. And I've gotten to go to fashion shows and, have clothing allowances that would blow your minds and, all of that. And also too, I was, forcing myself into a box, like how I looked, and also like my worthiness was wrapped in like my productivity. Like the more I worked, the harder I worked, the more love I felt. I was being seen, I was being heard, I was being acknowledged because of my work ethic. And so I lived that story for years. And there's still times where like I find myself like really hustling to this day. And I'm like, oh, Kelly, okay, Kelly, like bring it back. Because over the years, I wound up in the hospital. I wound up developing a few like chronic illnesses, which now, I consider my a biggest blessing because they're like, to me, they're like my guiding, like warning signs. If I'm working too
Mm-hmm.
hard, my body tells me. If I need sleep, my body lets me know. And so now, just honestly, within this past year, I've really been digging deep, like with my coach and doing a lot of the trauma healing. And that's where the power of play came from, because I wasn't having fun. People would be like, are you having fun? Are you dating? Like I put off dating to a certain degree. I froze my eggs at one point. I put my, the whole romantic relationship on hold. I put a lot of having fun on hold. I put a lot of things on hold to accomplish, what I thought success looked like. And, until maybe 2 years ago, I was asked by my coach, like, what is your definition of success? And I was like, oh, like, the luxury, the normal,
Mm-hmm.
or what we deem as normal, or what society deems as successful. And I really had, when that inquiry and that question was asked me, I'm like, wow, like, I don't want some of the things I thought I wanted. And so really just this year, it's been stepping into more of like the play, the pleasure, and like learning that play and pleasure and money and power are all connected,
Yes.
energetically. So yeah, that's kind of how I really stepped into it. And then I started embodying it. Like I do the mindset work, and I say it's yes, it's mindset work 100%. And it's also embodying it, like feeling in your body, and like really really like experiencing it. My coach, had me do an exercise called like joy alarms. So every day I set my phone 4 or 5 times a day, and when that alarm goes off, I get to celebrate in a way that, it's like you just won the lottery, or you just signed out a new client, or so I'm, and sometimes like I forget and I'm in the middle of a client call and I'm like, oh my God, my alarm goes off, and I, I have to dance, or I have to, get up. So that's just like kind of one practice that I do to really get in my body. And it changes, like you're doing that 4 or 5 times throughout the day, it changes something in your mind. So really, like, you change the state of your body and the mind will follow. So I've really been deepening my embodiment practice, and feeling the pleasure for myself. I recently did a a dance video, like twerk. There's a little twerking going on, like, and I was so nervous. Like, I shared it on Facebook, the full video, and it's on YouTube, like for the world to see. And there was even this is just a couple weeks ago, like there was a part of me where I'm like, I coach like executives and they're going to see me twerking on a basketball court. Like, what does that mean? And to me, it's like, no, I have to share this
Mhm.
because it's authentic. It's taking off the mask. It's the revealing, right? That side of us. Like everyone has a quirky, fun, let go side, and how many of us are not really truly tapping into that. And so so I published a video, and I got so many comments and so many likes, and the thing is like, you're not going to be for everyone. And that's what I had to also learn within these past like 2 years. It's like there's almost 8 billion people in the world, right? And my coach said this to me too. Everyone can serve someone, and there's 200,000 people for every person on this earth, for whatever you do and whoever you want to help, that are just uniquely can hear your message. So like being okay, and giving myself permission to be like, I'm not going to be for everyone, and I don't want to be for everyone. I just want to be for the people that I can serve and help, in the way that I can do it.
Well, that's got to be important too in coaching an executive level. You're talking about people that have crafted identities around not necessarily having to please everybody, but certainly having to be held responsible for many, many people, very high lines of profit, different things like that, like very high levels of pressure that are all around performance and image and that level of identity. And I think that this year of all years has taught us that potentially there's another voice that's struggling to get out. And I think there's a big difference between this packaged identity that our culture kind of pushes us into, of, like you were saying, the definition of success and what that looks like, and that power and money and influence and and all of those things, and position and status. And it's like that's what we're shown. It's like that's the box that we have to live in. And that's the old definition of hustle, right? Like, so you're
Mm-hmm.
talking about having to redefine your hustle and what that looks like. And 2020 was a massive breakdown of those old identities. And we've all been shoved down into that sacral chakra, that place where we've had to go backwards in time to figure out who were we in the beginning. Like when we were standing up in our kindergarten graduation and they said, what do you want to be when you grow up? Like, who is that kid? What happened to that kid? And that, at that point we understood that, the value in one best friend, and that we could be ourselves with that one best friend, and that we could play and we could pretend and we could use our imagination. And suddenly somewhere along the line that disappeared inside of these, these social structures, these cultural structures. And we've had the gift of our world being completely reorganized and restructured this year, and us having to go inside and start to do this work. So, how are you approaching these executives that, I mean, everybody's in the same boat, everybody's breaking down these old structures, and there's so much responsibility and so much life built into these identities. How are you finding these coaching patterns going with trying to get these people to break down their days and schedule in play and pleasure?
Yeah, it's a great question. So yesterday, literally, I had 3 clients, and each of the, now they don't know each other, all from like different, different companies, and they all were, the theme was stress overlying. And, one of the clients, uh, he, he was like, I feel like I can't be transparent, high level guy. Like, he's like, I just wanted like transparency, and being authentic is like, that is, it's like screaming. Like, that's what he said. It's like screaming. He was like, it was like screaming from his body to be transparent. And, in the, and he has a large, team organization. And there was a lot of, jealousy and envy and hiding things, right, from the board and all of that. And, he was not playing. He says, I work between like 12 and like 15-hour days. And then he's exhausted. He has no time for his family, his wife and his kids. And so, I really kind of discussed with him, like, what does play look like? It reminded me like years ago. And I was like, oh, I don't play. And he didn't, he's so consumed with overworking and not feeling like he can be himself, and not being able to speak his truth. Like, that was the whole thing. And then another woman yesterday, again, she, working for a passive aggressive, boss, female boss. And again, she was misunderstood. The female boss was, took it out and lashed at her, saying, I'm very disappointed in you, and all of this. And again, this woman wasn't allowing herself to play, because she always has to watch her back, right, from her, this toxic environment, toxic boss. So I think and I can't speak to all companies, but because some companies are doing really well in COVID, and some of them are not, right? The pressure is on. And like you said, Jenny, it's so important to get back to like ground zero. And I think this is a chance, no matter, because our external circumstances are going to always be changing. COVID, no COVID, election, no election. And yes, the volume and the heat gets turned up and it gets turned down. And in those moments, like, and I don't like the word balance, we have to find our like North Star, like our grounding point of what makes us happy, what makes us satisfied. I had a mentor that she asked me, because when I was just starting this play journey, what are you going to do for play this week? And I'm like, I'm not really sure. And I had to report back to her. And I told her, I took it one Sunday and I basically binged on, the masterclass series, like those educational videos. It's called Masterclass, and they have all these different experts, like teaching how to cook or write or public speaking or whatever. And so I told her, I binged on Sunday. I had such a good time. It was so fun. I binged on like this masterclass series. And she's like, that doesn't sound like fun. Like, you're still learning. And I'm like, and then I was like, well, wait a minute, right? Because I like to tell people too, it's like, where are we judging our fun, right? For some people, it may, like, for the client I had yesterday, like, maybe his ideal fun is just like vegging out, right? And learning something that is in his wheelhouse, right? Maybe he likes, I don't know, learning about Smurfs. I'm just making this up, but like, that's his, right? That's his play. That's his fun. So yes, it can be, the embodiment can look like something different for everybody. And that's why there's like really no judgment on play. And I like to tell people, like, what do you do for play? How do you play? If you don't remember how you played, how did you play when you were a kid? Like, try those things out first, and they may not, resonate. And then like bring it back to like, what would you want to do? Like, what's pulling at your heart? Like, maybe it's going to a farm and petting animals, like it could be the craziest stuff. And we all have these like weird intricacies. And I think it's okay. Like, there's no judgment in play. And I think it's getting back to like finding our North Star, and really like, what is going to bring you joy in this moment? And it can be in a moment by moment basis, or it can be on a daily or weekly basis. And it's kind of like having a money date, a finance date. It's like having a play date for yourself.
There's a lot of what you're saying that I coach my own clients through, inside of trying to figure out how to restructure their identity without throwing the baby out with the bathwater. It's like who you are and everything that you've done has gotten you to this point, right? So you can look back and you can still assess all of these gifts that you have, that you've made it, like you've gotten to this point. You can acknowledge those things and celebrate yourself inside of that. And then also being very real and truthful with yourself of like, okay, these are the things I really do like about myself and that I value about who I am, but these are the things that really aren't working for me anymore. And knowing yourself, like really knowing yourself and not judging that, obviously inside of my coaching, it's like, okay, well, how do I get spiritually centered? Okay, well, that's a complex question, because what kind of person are you? I always use myself as an example. Like, I know myself. I know I am a type A. I know that I am a person in movement and a person in action. So, people automatically assume, because of the kind of work that I'm in, that I must be a yogi and I must sit in meditation 45 minutes every day. And I don't do those things because they don't work for me. And I don't judge myself on that. I'm an active meditator. I will listen to my guided meditations when I'm out on my walk. I do my channeling while I'm driving in the car and talking on Marco Polo, or, like there's these different things that happen for different people based on different aspects of your personality. Now, yes, you as you're growing, you have to push yourself into spaces that are a little uncomfortable in order to grow and try new things. But I love what you're saying about like, we're trying to break into something to bring us pleasure. So, we're just setting new expectations for ourselves that eventually we're going to fail at. It's like, let's move ourselves into the same self-sabotage patterns in another area of our lives, right? So, and giving yourself the opportunity to succeed in trying this new thing that's supposed to feel good, by really being authentic about the identity that you're in right now and saying, this is okay. No, this isn't working for me right now, but this is what I know. And this is how I can function. And this is how I set my first step to success. And lots of little successes and lots of little steps bring us to change before we even realize it. We look back and we're like, oh my God, how did I get here? And so I love that. I love that big point of, because God, all of our stress is internal. It's like what you were saying is like, you have all these clients saying like, my common factor here is stress. And it's because we're judging ourselves on everything that we do. We're hypercritical of everything that we do. It's the expectations we've set for ourselves far surpass any expectation that is coming from the outside in.
100%. And I have a client where that's all she does, right? Is internalize and put these expectations on herself. Call it perfectionism, call it type A, but the bar is set so high that it's like you're setting yourself up for failure. When you're and then when you internalize it, then it's like, okay, and then it affects you physically, like emotional, the body and the mind are so connected. And so how can we get out of that, or how can we just even like 1% better, feel better, or lessen the chatter in our heads and what we're telling and talking to ourselves about. you know, when I did that dance video, it's so interesting because I knew, like, my gut, it was a soul yes. And I knew I wanted to do it. And I was like, yes, it's gonna be so fun. And we practiced for weeks, you know, obviously virtually. And the day, like 2 days before, I was like, I don't want to do this. Like, and the night before, I couldn't sleep because I'm like, I'm not gonna go. Like, I was talking, so that's how loud our ego is. That's how loud our old identity can hold us back. When I literally, like, I got asked to be in the video, I practiced for weeks, spent time, you know, attention on it. And, you know, I had to, you know, buy a little outfit, you know, whatever. And I was ready to go. And like the night before, I'm like, I am not twerking on a basketball court. Like, this is crazy. Like, no, but then my soul was like pulling me, like, Kelly, like, what if you don't do that? If, would the cost of not doing that, would that bring you regret? You know, would that be something that you regret? And what would that cost you? And obviously, it cost me my peace of mind the night before because I couldn't sleep. And I was like thinking about it. I was doing like pro and con lists in my head. And I was like, you know what? Like, the regret of me not doing it is larger, you know, than me doing it. So I was like, screw it. And sometimes we just have to, you know, listen to our soul. And if it's a soul yes, like, just go for it. And like, be like, whatever is going to happen is going to happen. And then I am so glad I did it. Like, after, when it was all done, I was like, I am so glad I did that because I would regret if I didn't, you
Mm-hmm.
know? So it's like listening to that soul yes, even though if you're not 100% on board with yourself, if it's pulling you and tugging at you, and the question is, will I regret this more if I don't do it? You know, or, you know, the question of, if today was my last day on earth, like, how would I proceed? And it's such a
The
powerful question.
the what I'd like you to leave with the audience today, because I'm sure that, like, as we're talking about this, we have a bunch of people saying, like, okay, I've got a lot of things on the table right now that I could apply these philosophies to, but I don't know what to do to get started. Like, there's so many things that I could say of, like, if it were my last day on earth, and to ask myself that very powerful question. It's like, oh my God, I might quit my job tomorrow. I might leave my spouse. I might move to another country. I might, and so these are very real things that pop up inside the body that basically give us this new direction of, like, okay, am I really in my true north, or is there something else?
Mhm.
And sometimes that can be so overwhelming and so outlandish that we just instantly shut ourselves down and say, no, I'm not going to do that. And so,
Right.
without giving everything away inside of your mastermind class
Yeah.
that's getting ready to start, with the power of play, what do you leave people, at least with, like, the first step to be able to take to move in this direction of starting to remember this
Okay.
person that is still in there, that, started out as just some 8-year-old kid playing in the dirt?
Yeah. So first of all, it's like, one is congratulations, because when your mind goes there and thinking, oh, should I leave my spouse? Should I quit my job? Like that's great. Like, that thinking is like welcomed, because as kids, right? You look at a kid that plays with a cardboard box and they're having the best time of their life. And it's like, okay, it's like yes, like, bringing up like all that, because it's just like, revealing what needs to be shown, right, and what needs to be healed. And I think it's like celebrating yourself for even having those thoughts, right? Feelings are not facts, and thoughts are not, the end all be all. So I think it's like celebrating yourself, giving yourself permission to feel what you're feeling. I think that's so important. Like, honor where you're at. Like, if you're stressed out, feel it. If you're angry, feel it. Because a lot of us don't feel our feelings. We
Mhm.
eat over it. We have sex over it. We shop over it. We do all these things over it. So I think the first step is like acknowledging where you are. And like you said in the beginning, Jenny, like, everything that, whoever's listening, everything that you are, that has gotten you up to this point now is perfect, right? it
Mhm.
was it was divinely guided in your life. You've overcome so many things, and it's like being thankful for all the struggles, the obstacles, where you're at even now. And because nothing's perfect and we're all like whole, complete, and we are perfection and we're still work in progress. So the first step I think is acknowledgement and celebration of like where you are right now, no judgment, because a lot of times me, myself, and I included, I should on myself of I should be here by now. I should be doing this by now. You know, a lot of shoulding on ourselves. And when we do that, it's right. It's the whole like it's trying to fit into that ego like identity box again. So not shitting on ourselves. And then like how do we tap into like what's the first step? Like how do we tap into the play? It's you know it's just being curious and just being like what would feel good to me like right in this moment, or what can shift me. In coaching they teach, I guess, all these different, we learned like energy leadership and all of that. But if you think of, and I forget, like someone came up with this, not myself, but a ladder, right? The ladder of consciousness, say. And it's like, are you angry? Are you in victim mode? And then it like the steps of the ladder keep going up to all the way to like love, joy, and so we don't want to like, we can't catapult up to the ladder if we're in victim and struggling mode and then like feel joy and love. And yes, like say we're having a crappy day and then we see a baby that we love. Yes, that way, and that could be a hit of love and joy. However, it's like all we need to focus on and all you need to focus on is just getting to that next like ring in the ladder. And I know Abraham Hicks like talks about this is like, what's the next best thing that can make you feel good? Like tap in, like when you were a child. And a lot of people don't feel safe to play because when they played, when they were kids, and this is where, we dive into more of the trauma and the shadow work, right? I have a client that she said she didn't feel safe when she played when she was younger because, she had a lot of things happen to her at a young age. And so sometimes that gets taken from us, that gets stripped from us. And, there's a lot of deeper work involved in that. However, it's like, where can you just feel safe, to play? Like, what would make you feel safe? What would make you feel free? What would make you feel just happy, in the moment? And it doesn't have to be a huge celebration, and it can be, and it can be radical. It could be taking off a weekend and going for a road trip, unplanned. So I would say whatever, because it's going to be different for everybody, what play looks like for them. So I would just say, what can make you feel 1% better? And where can you just lean in just a little bit more into feeling better and feeling good and feeling free and feeling that way like a child would, when they're free and they're playing with the cardboard box or they're having the time of their life, and that's what we want to start to tap into. And sometimes this can be a discovery phase. Like for me, I was discovering different things that I really enjoyed and it's a relearning, of things, unlearning and relearning at the same time.
Yeah,
so I don't
I
know
think
if that answers
that's
your question, but I would just recommend and invite people.
I think I think it's great. I think that the introduction to the fact that it's okay if you don't know what fun means for you anymore, that learning and that discovery process, I think a lot of us would have to start there because we've gotten so entrenched in the adulting, the adult world or the parenting or the teaching or whatever that looks like, that we've lost that somewhere in the journey, and having to rediscover based on where we're at in our lives right now, what fun might look like or what feeling good might look like. And, like for me, it is literally sitting in a quiet room with no TV, no music on, just sitting there and looking out the window. And my husband thinks that I'm nuts because he's like, why are you just sitting here in silence? Like, because it's fantastic. Did you hear that? No, you don't, because there's nothing, because it's quiet. Like I hear myself talk all day long, and then I have 2 kids, being able to sit in a quiet room is so fulfilling to me. And so trying to figure that out, that learning process of, just sitting down and having a brainstorming session with yourself, like what would feel good right now? Like, do I even know what that looks like? And I think it's really important too that you talk about the feeling aspect of this, of really feeling the feelings that are coming up around this whole issue, because this is also a sacral issue, right? We look at our emotions, and that emotional energy is born out of our sacral chakra. And then what do we do to cover that up? We create addiction. So addiction also, those addiction vibrations live inside the sacral chakra. And so, it's like you were saying, eating our feelings, having sex over our feelings, shopping our feelings, like whatever those things are, working harder. Let's get busier. Let me do more. Let me increase my hustle so I don't have to look at what's going on in my life right now, and so it could be just stillness, those little, that time of discovery and thinking and brainstorming. So I think that, you answered the question perfectly, because we all need to kind of start in square one. And if you're an advanced player, then good for you. Then you need to get on here and teach the rest of us how to play. But I wanted to give Kelly Lynn also the opportunity to just give everybody some resources of where you all can find her and the structure of work that she does. So if you could let us know, how do people find you? And then as far as anybody who might be interested in joining up inside of the new masterclass that's starting this coming week, how they might go about doing that.
Yeah. So before I get into that, I want to say one other thing too. Like for those advanced people, right, that have been playing and are in kind of like an advanced, stage. A really powerful question is, what is your future self or your identity? Like, who do you want to become? Because we're always evolving, and some of us have this ultimate person that we want to become. But it's like when you think of yourself and your identity, like the vision of yourself, who is that person? How would they dress? How would they speak? A really cool guided meditation that one of my coaches brought me through is, thinking there's a teepee in the middle of the desert, right? And as you're walking into the desert, into your teepee, your identity and the version of yourself that you see, the highest version of yourself, is like sitting in the teepee, right? And how are they dressed? How are they standing or sitting? How is their energy? What have they accomplished in their life, right? So, and that'll change. That can change every 90 days. It could change every couple of weeks. And so that's a really great like visualization that you can always go back to, like that higher version of yourself that you are. I don't like the word striving, but that you're like the unbecoming of, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like I always go back to that place of, okay, like who is she? Like how does she serve people? Who is she in the world, right? And this is, you don't have to do this. This is more of like an advanced like technique. And you can try it on and see how you feel when you do it. And I think that brings me joy and ease and groundedness too, because it's like, oh, what am I going to envision? Like, how do I see her today? So
Mm-hmm.
I think it's that whole visualization part is key too. And at the same time, we don't want a future trip, but it's nice sometimes to go to that place. So yeah, people can find me at kellylynadams.com. That's the main source. Like I'm on social media, all my social media outlets are there. And then the Power of Play, we officially start December 1st. So we have a masterclass coming up on Monday, November 23rd. And in that masterclass, I'm doing a lot of teaching. Like it's basically the framework of the program. So if people want to hear more, they can join the masterclass, or they can reach out to me. I'm always happy to jump on a phone call, or, you can slide into my DMs or my emails, and, we can talk more about it. But it's going to be really powerful. It's for women only. So sorry, any guys listening. And I may do something for guys in the future, or maybe do a co-ed thing. I don't know. Never say never. But this is more really deep for women, and all about living into your vision, taking off your masks, a lot of the mindset work, like letting go of the mind trash, like taking it out. And then like the identity, like who are you now? What are you strong in? What are your strengths? I just learned like different strengths, you know, on a spiritual and logistical level and analytical level, like a few weeks ago about myself. And I've been doing this work, right, Jenny, like for
Mhm.
years. And you just always, you never know, and you always know like what's uncovering, what wants to reveal itself now. So we do a lot of that. So there's three components. It's a 90-day program. It's 3 months. So it goes until February. So it starts in December, goes till February. And then yeah, I'm really excited. We had a blast. Our last masterclass promoting this. We had international people joining, you know, domestic. It was really fun. And even if you just come to the master class and learn something and don't join the program, you'll be served either way you go.
That's awesome. Well, I do encourage everybody to at least go check out Kelly Lynn's website or find her on Instagram. She's amazing at putting out content all the time. She has her own podcast called Perfectly Imperfect. Is that correct?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So you can go find her there. She has an IGTV series called In Her Shoes, where she gets some pretty high profile, successful women on to talk and chat and do interviews. So there's lots of amazing content that she's putting out on a daily basis. And then you can reach out to her directly if you have questions about the class. But Kelly Lynn, thank you so much. It just makes my heart so happy to have been able to reconnect after all these years, even though I don't really feel like we ever fully disconnected. We started way back in the day. We started a company called Make It Happen Girl, and it, you know, over the years, it's just kind of sat there on Facebook, and there's over 1,000 members, I think, in there now. So who knows? Like you said, never say never, right? And you may see us pop in there again. But thank you so much for coming and doing the first Soul Tribe Saturday with me here on Soul Speak with Jenny Israel. So much love to you, and lots of blessings and light around your projects and the people that you're working with, and for your own journey and your own health. And I just really appreciate you spending the time with us here today.
Oh, thank you so much, Jenny. You're such an angel in my life. Seriously. Thank you for this opportunity. I'm so excited for you and this podcast and everything that you're putting out in the world. It's going to be healing so many people on even a bigger scale. So I'm very
Well,
excited for
thank
you.
you. I'm
Thank you so
excited
much.
as well. Well, thanks everybody again for tuning in to Soul Speak with Jenny Israel. Thanks again to Kelly Lynn Adams. And as always, until next time, blessings and light to all. See you next time.